Right now, before you've touched the back door, there's a good chance one of your birds is already out there, perched, waiting. You didn't call for them, you didn't make a sound, and yet they knew. Welcome to Backyard Bird Mind. Every week we go deeper into the hidden lives of the birds in your yard. Subscribe if you're new. You'll want to be here for this one, because what your birds know about you is going to surprise you. There is a moment, usually within the first few days of putting out a feeder, when something shifts. The birds stop arriving randomly. They start arriving on a schedule, your schedule. Not an approximation of it, not a rough guess shaped by hunger, a precise, consistent schedule calibrated to your movements, your rhythms, your particular way of moving through a morning. Researchers who study avian foraging behavior have documented this pattern across dozens of species. Given a consistent food source tied to human activity, birds begin building what scientists call a time-place association, a precise internal map linking a specific location to a specific window of time. And the window is narrow. In controlled studies, feeder birds have been shown to arrive within minutes of a consistent daily feeding time, even when that time shifts slightly from day to day. They're not operating on a rough instinct. They're running a calculation. The mechanism behind this is called circadian entrainment. Every bird carries an internal biological clock, a neural timing system that governs sleep, migration, hormonal cycles, and foraging. What most people don't realize is that this clock is not fixed. It is designed to synchronize with reliable external cues. Daylight is the primary one, but human activity is another. The sound of a door at 7 in the morning, the particular footstep pattern on a wooden deck, the way a specific vehicle sounds arriving home. These events, occurring consistently at consistent times, get absorbed into the timing system. And over days, the birds begin arriving before those events because they have already predicted the outcome. Your birds are not waiting for a signal from you. They are anticipating one. And that distinction matters more than it might seem, because anticipation requires a model. It requires an internal representation of what is about to happen, built from what has happened before. To anticipate your arrival, your birds have to hold a version of your behavior inside their minds. They are not just learning a stimulus, they are running a forward simulation of you. Most feeder owners never stop to consider what is actually happening in those first quiet moments of the morning. They look out the window, they see the birds, they feel something warm and familiar. What they rarely consider is that the bird was already there, already waiting, already knowing. But the schedule is only the surface of it. What birds are building when they map a feeder habitat isn't just a timeline. It's a sensory catalog, and the catalog goes far deeper than most people imagine. Every environment produces a constant background of sound, and birds are extraordinarily refined listeners. Their auditory processing is more precise than ours in ways that still surprise researchers. They can detect and distinguish sounds that register to human ears as identical. They can track and remember specific acoustic signatures across weeks and months. And when you move through your home, you leave a trail of sound that is specific to you.
The particular creak of a floorboard near the back door, the click of a cabinet, the way your coffee maker sounds in the morning, the specific seal release of your back door when you push it open. To you, these are ambient noise, the background texture of a normal morning. To the birds in your yard, they are a sequence of meaningful signals. Each one carries information about what is about to happen next, and over time, each one gets filed and weighted and connected to an outcome. Studies on common feeder species, chickadees, house sparrows, nuthatches, house finches, have shown that birds don't just learn the sounds associated with feeding. They learn to distinguish between different humans based on those sounds. Different footfall rhythms produce different responses, different vocal patterns, different vehicles. A bird that has learned to associate your specific approach with reliable, safe food will respond to you differently than it responds to a stranger crossing the same yard. Not because it is being polite, because it has built a profile and you are in it and the stranger is not. This is not generalized conditioning. This is individual recognition. Your birds have assembled an acoustic portrait of you and they consult it in real time every time you move. That means something specific for the way you experience your yard. The bird that holds its position on the feeder when you come outside but flushes the moment your neighbor passes through, that is not random. That is the product of a distinction your bird made based on data it accumulated without your awareness. You were classified. The neighbor was unknown or known differently. The response reflects the file, not the moment.
Research into individual recognition in wild birds has confirmed that many common backyard species distinguish specific humans using a combination of cues: visual silhouette, movement pattern, acoustic signature, and behavioral consistency. Work from the University of Exeter on great tits and other garden birds found that birds in human-inhabited areas develop what researchers describe as a personalized response profile for the individuals they encounter regularly. Some people are classified as reliable, some as threats, and crucially, those classifications are stable. They persist across seasons and are only updated when the person's behavior changes significantly. Your birds haven't just learned the schedule, they've learned you. There is a version of you that exists inside the minds of the birds that visit your yard, built from every consistent thing you've done, every morning you showed up, every time you moved quietly, and every time you moved too fast. That version of you is detailed, and it shapes everything about how they behave in your presence. Which brings us to the behavior that tends to stop people when they finally pay attention to it: the bird that is already there, already perched on the post near the feeder, or on the fence, or in the low branch closest to where you'll appear, before you've opened the door, before you've made a sound they could reasonably be responding to. This is called anticipatory positioning, and it is a specific documented class of foraging behavior seen in species with stable territories and reliable food sources. The bird has calculated that food is about to become available. Rather than waiting for the confirmation signal, the sound of the door, the sight of you, it has moved into position in advance, to be first.
To reduce competition, to minimize the gap between opportunity and consumption. What that means is that your birds are not reacting to you, they are predicting you. They have modeled your behavior accurately enough to know, without any evidence in the present moment, that you are about to appear, and they have acted on that model. If you sit with that for a moment, something shifts in how the morning looks. If you enjoy what we explore on this channel, subscribe to Backyard Bird Mind and share this video with someone who watches birds. Every week there is more to find here than most people expect, and this one is worth passing on. Now, what happens when you're not there? People who travel, even for a few days, often come back to a yard that feels different, quieter, fewer birds on the first morning back. Not because the birds left, because the model broke. You stopped appearing. The prediction failed. And when a prediction fails consistently, birds begin redistributing their foraging time toward locations with more reliable returns. This is not abandonment. It is rational resource management by a creature that cannot afford to waste energy on an unreliable source. But here's what's revealing. They come back. Not randomly, not only because the food reappears. They come back on a timeline that suggests they were still running the model in your absence, still checking, still holding the association even when it stopped being confirmed. Studies on territorial songbirds show that individuals maintain awareness of key foraging sites for weeks after those sites go inactive, returning at intervals that reflect their previous experience of the site's reliability. The more consistent you were before you left, the sooner they return after you come back.
Your birds were not waiting at the feeder while you were gone, but they were waiting in a different sense, holding the place you occupied in their model of the world, checking periodically to see if you had returned to it. And when you came back, they knew. Often within a day, the schedule resumes, the positions are retaken, the anticipatory behavior reappears, not because they're starting over, because they never stopped. Step back now and think about the scale of what has accumulated over a season, over a year. Every morning you went outside, every day you skipped, every time you refilled at a different hour, or moved through the yard slowly, or crossed the space too quickly. Every sound you made that they mapped to safety, and every one they mapped to caution. Every approach that ended with them staying, and every one that ended with them lifting away. Every week of consistency, followed by a few days of absence. All of it went in. All of it was retained, weighted, and incorporated into something that functions as a working model of who you are and what you do. What your birds have built about you is not a simple association between a person and food. It is a predictive model of a specific individual, refined over hundreds of separate observations, updated in real time,
and precise enough to generate behavior, prepositioning, personalized tolerance, schedule anticipation that constitutes a genuine portrait. Not a complete one, not a human one, but a functional, specific, persistent representation of you. The birds at your feet know things about your habits that most people in your life don't know. They know your morning timeline.
They know the difference between the way you move when you're heading to the feeder and the way you move when you're just crossing the yard. They know which sounds mean you'll be outside soon and which sounds mean you won't. They have built, from nothing but observation and memory, a model of you that is accurate enough to act on, and they act on it every single morning before you've said a word. We tend to think of ourselves as the ones who watch birds. We set up the feeders. We choose the spot, the seed, the water dish. We look out the window and feel the quiet satisfaction of seeing them there. In our minds, the attention flows outward, from us toward them. We are the observers. They are the observed. But that is not what the evidence shows. What the evidence shows is that for every morning you looked out and noticed the birds, there was a bird that had already noticed you. That for every season you spent watching them, there was a creature spending that same season building an understanding of you, your patterns, your sounds, your consistency, your particular presence in that space, detailed enough to predict your movements and distinguish you from every other person who walked through that yard. You were not just the observer. You were the subject. You were being studied with the same quiet, sustained attention that you brought to them, except they started earlier, and they kept everything. The bird that is already waiting when you open the door in the morning is not there by coincidence. It is there because it has paid attention to you, because you became, over time, something known, something reliable enough to build a schedule around, something familiar enough to tolerate at close range, something worth positioning for before you even appear.
In the life of a wild creature for whom every decision is a calculation about survival, that is not a small thing. Trust is not a feeling for a bird, it is a conclusion. And your birds reached it, methodically, carefully, over many mornings, while you were simply living your life. The relationship you thought was one-sided never was. It was always running in both directions. You just didn't know you were part of it. Have your birds ever been waiting before you got outside, or behaved differently toward you than toward anyone else in your yard? Tell me what you've seen in the comments. I'd like to know. Subscribe to Backyard Bird Mind if this is the kind of thing that changes the way you look at your yard, and share this with someone who feels a feeder. They should know who is watching.